I never imagined that one late afternoon running through a hotel hallway, breathless and clumsy, would change the entire course of my life. My name is Emily Carter. I'm 28 years old, and if I had to describe myself in one word, it would probably be ordinary. An ordinary architect, an ordinary woman trying to keep her life together, someone who has made her share of mistakes and learned to carry them quietly. But that day, the day of my best friend Clara's wedding, something extraordinary happened, something I never could have predicted. I remember it so vividly, the panic of rushing up the hotel stairs because the elevator was packed, the sound of my own heart racing as I clutched the hem of my dress to stop myself from tripping. I was supposed to be early. I was supposed to look composed and graceful, the perfect bridesmaid standing by Clara's side. Instead, I was sweaty late and nearly trampled by a reckless driver at the hotel entrance. Fate, it seemed, had already decided this would not be a simple day for me. Then, as if my embarrassment wasn't enough, I collided hard into someone in the hallway. My bouquet went flying. My purse spilled open, and for a moment I thought I would fall flat on the expensive carpet. But before I could completely make a fool of myself, strong hands gripped my waist, steadying me. The scent of cologne, rich, clean, and far too expensive for someone like me, flooded my senses and I froze. When I looked up, I saw him. Dark hair, perfectly styled, piercing blue eyes that looked as though they could see through me, and the commanding presence of someone used to being in control. He looked like he had stepped out of a glossy magazine cover, handsome, intimidating, impossibly out of reach. "You're late," he said simply, his voice calm, deep, and steady, as though he already knew me. Flustered, I tried to brush it off with a sarcastic reply, but the truth was his gaze unsettled me in a way I couldn't explain. I tried to run, but my dress caught on my heel, trapping me in my own mess. He crouched down without hesitation, freeing me with practiced ease, and with a teasing smirk said, "You may now continue your suicide mission." I should have forgotten him right there. I should have focused on the ceremony, on Clara's happiness, on blending into the background. But when I finally stood with the other bridesmaids and dared to glance toward the groomsmen, there he was again, watching me. His eyes followed me like a shadow, and when I whispered to another bridesmaid who he was, the answer nearly knocked the air from my lungs. Brian Fisher, one of the wealthiest men in the country, the CEO of one of the largest financial consulting firms in the world, ruthless, powerful, untouchable, and yet his eyes never left me. I tried to shake it off. I told myself I was imagining things, that men like him didn't notice women like me. I was just an architect, barely managing to keep my career afloat. I wasn't glamorous, I wasn't wealthy, I wasn't even particularly graceful. But no matter how hard I tried to ignore it, the weight of his gaze was there, intense, unrelenting. The universe wasn't done humiliating me. Later, when I tried to grab a glass of wine, I turned too quickly and collided with someone again. The liquid spilled across the front of a pristine black suit, and when I looked up, it was him. Brian. I froze, stammering apologies, convinced he would throw me out or demand repayment for the damage. But instead, he calmly removed his jacket, rolled up his sleeves, and said, "Relax. It's just wine." That moment should have been the end. A small accident quickly forgotten. But then he looked at me again with that unreadable expression and said something that made my heart skip. "If you'd like to make it up to me, join me at the bar." I didn't know why I said yes. Maybe it was curiosity, maybe it was the strange pull I felt toward him, or maybe I was just too tired to keep resisting. But as we sat at the bar, the world around me seemed to fade. He asked questions, small ones at first, then deeper ones, about my work, about my dreams. His laugh, rare, quiet, almost reluctant, sent shivers through me. And when we danced later that night, his hand on my waist, his eyes locked on mine, I felt something inside me shift. I should have run. I should have reminded myself that men like him only bring trouble. But when the night ended and he offered me a ride home, I didn't say no. Sitting in his car, the city lights flickering past his calm voice, filling the silence, I felt my defenses crumbling. And when he said quietly, "You have no idea the effect you have on people," I didn't know whether to laugh or cry. I told myself it was just one night, a fleeting spark at a wedding, a story I would laugh about later. But fate wasn't done with me. Because a few days later, when I walked into the conference room at my firm, clutching blueprints and coffee, my heart nearly stopped. There he was, Brian Fisher, sitting at the head of the table. Not as a guest, not as a stranger, but as the lead investor in our most important project. And in that moment, as his eyes met mine across the room, I knew I was in more trouble than I had ever been in my life. The room spun the moment I realized it was him. Brian Fisher, the man whose eyes had lingered on me at Clara's wedding, whose hand had steadied me when I stumbled, whose words had slipped past my defenses, was now sitting at the head of the table in my firm's conference room. The weight of his presence was overwhelming. His suit was immaculate, his posture commanding, but what terrified me most was the quiet recognition in his gaze. He remembered me. I forced myself to focus on the blueprints in my hands, pretending not to notice the way my colleagues straightened their backs, their voices more polished than usual as they pitched ideas. My boss was practically trembling with eagerness, desperate to impress him. And there I was, Emily Carter, ordinary awkward, barely holding my job together, standing in front of one of the most powerful men in the country. But then his voice cut through the room. "Emily," he said, drawing out my name as though he had rehearsed it, "would you walk me through your part of the design?" My colleagues turned to me with thinly veiled annoyance. I was never the star of the team, never the one singled out for praise. I swallowed hard, stepped forward, and began to explain the design elements I had worked on. My voice wavered at first, but as I pointed to the sketches and models, I found my rhythm. Architecture had always been my anchor, the one thing that gave me confidence. When I finished, silence filled the room. I worried I had said something foolish, but then Brian leaned back, a faint smile tugging at his lips. Impressive, very impressive. The meeting ended, but the air clung heavy around me. As my colleagues gathered their things, he stood, adjusted his cufflinks, and spoke again, this time to me alone. "Stay a moment, Emily, I'd like a word." The others filed out reluctantly, throwing me sidelong glances thick with suspicion and envy. The door closed, and suddenly it was just us. My heart pounded. I didn't know if I was more afraid of what he might say or of what I might feel. He studied me for a long moment before speaking. "I didn't expect to see you here, but perhaps fate is trying to make a point." I laughed nervously, trying to downplay it. "Fate has a cruel sense of humor," or he countered smoothly. "Maybe it has a sense of timing." His eyes softened, though his voice carried the same calm authority that made everyone else shrink. "You intrigue me, Emily. At the wedding I thought perhaps it was just the chaos of the night. But seeing you here in your element, I was right. You're different." His words unsettled me. I had spent years blending into the background, hiding my scars and my broken past. Different was the last thing I wanted to be. Different drew attention, and attention always ended in pain. I pulled back, my tone sharper than I intended. "You don't know me. Whatever you think you saw, it's not real." For a moment, his mask slipped. Something flickered in his eyes, something raw, almost wounded. But then it was gone, replaced by the steady calm that unnerved me so deeply. "Then let me know you," he said quietly. I didn't answer. I couldn't. My heart screamed for me to run, to slam the door on whatever this was before it consumed me. And yet a treacherous part of me, the part that still remembered the way he had defended me at the wedding, the way his voice seemed to cut through my loneliness, longed to stay. Over the next weeks, our paths crossed more often than I could bear. At first, it was all business. He attended meetings, asked for my input more than anyone else's, and pushed me to defend my ideas when others dismissed them. But then came the small gestures, the way he lingered after everyone left, the quiet conversations about books, music, childhood memories. And with each moment I found myself unraveling. But shadows crept in too. My colleagues whispered, accusing me of seducing him to climb the ladder. Clara, my best friend who had once defended me against the world, began to pull away. "Be careful," she warned one evening over coffee. "Men like him don't fall for women like us. They use us, and when they're done, they leave us with nothing." Her words stabbed deep because I had lived that story before. Years ago, I had trusted someone who promised me forever, only to be left broken, humiliated, betrayed. That wound had never healed, and the thought of opening it again terrified me. Still, when Brian looked at me, I couldn't deny the pull. His presence was both a comfort and a danger, like standing too close to fire. I didn't know whether it would warm me or burn me alive. The breaking point came the night he invited me to dinner, not a business dinner, but something else entirely. The restaurant was dimly lit with candles flickering between us. He spoke less about work, more about dreams, regrets, fears. And when dessert arrived, he leaned forward, his voice barely above a whisper. Emily, there's something I need to tell you. Something I should have told you the first night we met. My breath caught. His eyes were steady, but beneath them I saw something dark, something that sent a chill crawling up my spine. And in that moment I knew whatever he was about to say had the power to shatter everything. His words hung in the air, suspended like a blade waiting to fall. My hands tightened around the stem of my glass, my heart beat loud enough to drown out the soft hum of the restaurant. Brian's eyes stayed locked on mine, steady yet heavy, as though he carried the weight of something too dangerous to release. I should have told you, he repeated softer this time, because you deserve honesty. But honesty comes with a price, and I wasn't sure if you were ready to pay it. A chill spread through me. My mind spun through possibilities. Was he married, engaged? Was I nothing more than a distraction for a man who lived in another world? My scars screamed, "This is it. This is where he breaks you too." "Then tell me," I said, my voice trembling despite my effort to sound firm. "Let me decide if I'm ready." His jaw tightened. He leaned back slightly as though retreating from the confession itself. "My family," he began slowly, "is not what you think. The Fishers are respected in business, admired in society, but beneath the surface—" He exhaled sharply, his gaze dropping for the first time that night. "Beneath the surface, there are secrets, old betrayals, debts, enemies, and anyone who stands too close to me becomes a target." I blinked, confused. "A target?" "Yes." His eyes lifted again, fierce now. "They'll find ways to discredit you, destroy you, make you wish you'd never met me. It's how they keep their power intact. They've done it before, and if I let you step deeper into my life, they'll do it again." His warning should have scared me away. It should have been enough to make me stand up, walk out, and never look back. But instead, his vulnerability disarmed me. For the first time, the invincible Brian Fisher looked almost human, almost breakable. "Why are you telling me this now?" I whispered. "Because I care about you more than I should," he admitted, his voice cracking just slightly. "And because I'd rather lose you by telling you the truth than keep you by feeding you lies." The honesty in his words cut deeper than any betrayal ever had. I wanted to believe him. I wanted to reach across the table to silence the fear in his eyes, to tell him that I wasn't afraid of his family or their shadows. But the truth was, I was. Because I had lived through betrayal before, and I knew how merciless it could be. That night, as I walked back to my small apartment, his words haunted me. The city lights blurred into streaks as I blinked back tears. I should have felt stronger for knowing the truth, but instead I felt like prey caught between two predators, my own fear and his dangerous world. Over the next days, the cracks began to show. Clara confronted me again, her tone sharp, almost desperate. "Emily, you don't know what you're walking into. His family ruined a friend of mine years ago. They buried her career, her reputation, everything. Don't let them do the same to you." Her warning echoed Brian's, but hearing it from someone who had always been my protector made it cut deeper. My stomach churned with dread, but my heart betrayed me. Because every time I thought of walking away, I remembered his eyes, the way they softened when he looked at me, the way his voice faltered when he admitted he cared. And then the betrayal came, not from him, but from the world around us. One morning I arrived at work to find whispers slicing through the office like knives. My colleagues turned cold, their eyes sharp with judgment. A headline spread across one of the city's financial blogs: "Mystery Woman Spotted with Brian Fisher Architects' Questionable Rise to Favor." My name wasn't printed yet, but the description was unmistakable. I felt my knees weaken, shame washing over me in waves. It was happening just as he said it would. The shadows of his family, the whispers of his world had found me. When I confronted him later that evening, anger and fear spilling from me in equal measure, he didn't deny it. "I told you this would happen," he said, his voice raw. "But I didn't tell them. I would never betray you." "Then who did?" I demanded, my voice breaking. His silence was the only answer I needed. Whoever had done it, it came from inside his circle, someone close, someone who wanted me gone. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just a love story, it was a battlefield. The battlefield grew darker with every passing day. What began as whispers in the office soon turned into daggers in the press. Within a week, my name was printed for all to see: Emily Carter, the bridesmaid who caught the eye of Brian Fisher. They called me a gold digger, an opportunist, a desperate woman clawing her way into a world she didn't belong to. The photos they used were grainy, stolen moments from the gala, from the street outside my apartment, my face frozen in expressions of exhaustion and fear twisted to fit their narrative. I wanted to believe I was strong enough to withstand it, but strength has limits and mine was breaking. My boss called me into his office, his tone clipped and cold. "Emily, your association with Mr. Fisher is compromising our firm's reputation. Clients are pulling out, investors are nervous. Unless this matter resolves itself, we may need to let you go." My chest hollowed. Architecture had been my anchor, my proof that I was more than the scars of my past. And now even that was slipping through my fingers. That night, I stormed into Brian's penthouse, fury shaking through me. He was at the window, city lights sprawling behind him, calm as if the storm didn't touch him. "Do you see what they are doing to me?" I demanded, tears blurring my vision. "I'm losing everything, my job, my friends, my dignity because of you." He turned, his expression pained, but resolute. "Because of my family," he corrected. "They're testing you. They want to see if you'll break. If you do, they'll know you never belonged." I laughed bitterly. "I don't belong. I never asked for this. I didn't chase you, Brian. You're the one who wouldn't let me walk away." For the first time, his composure cracked. He closed the distance between us in 2 strides, his hands gripping my arms not harshly, but with desperation. "Because I can't. I can't let you walk away. I've spent my life surrounded by liars, sycophants, and manipulators. And then you came along, clumsy, late, unpolished, and you were real. You don't know what that means to someone like me." My heart ached at his words. But pain and love are cruel twins. "And what about me?" I whispered. "What does it mean for me to love someone who's destroying me?" He flinched as though I'd struck him. His grip loosened and he stepped back, his face shadowed with guilt. For a moment I thought he would tell me to leave, to protect me the only way he could. But instead he said something that chilled me deeper than any headline. "There's more you don't know," he admitted, his voice low. "It wasn't just the press. The leak came from inside my family. And the one who did it was Clara." The world tilted beneath me. Clara. My voice cracked on the name of the woman who had been my closest friend. My shield through years of hardship. "No, that's impossible. She wouldn't." "She did," he interrupted, his eyes heavy with sorrow. "She's tied to my family more than you realize. Her father owes them, her brother works under them. She thought exposing you would push you out before they crushed you completely." My knees buckled and I sank into the nearest chair, the weight of betrayal suffocating me. Clara, my best friend, the one I trusted more than anyone, was part of the very storm tearing me apart. Memories surged, her sudden coldness, her sharp warnings, her distant stares. They all fit now. She hadn't been protecting me. She had been preparing me for the fall she helped orchestrate. Brian crouched in front of me, his hand reaching for mine. "I told you this wasn't just about love. It's about power, loyalty, betrayal. They don't care who they break, Emily. Not even you, especially not you." Tears blurred my vision. My world was crumbling from both sides. Love pulling me in, betrayal pushing me out. I had nowhere left to run, no one left to trust. And as I sat there trembling, I realized the cruelest truth of all this war wasn't about me and Brian. It was about survival. Survival became my only compass. Every breath, every decision, every glance over my shoulder carried the weight of danger I had never imagined myself capable of enduring. I wasn't just fighting for love anymore. I was fighting for the right to exist in a world that had decided I didn't belong. The days after Brian's confession blurred into one long ache. Clara stopped answering my calls. The silence from her was louder than any accusation, and it pierced me deeper than the headlines. Betrayal from strangers wounds the skin. Betrayal from a friend rips out the heart. I replayed our years together in my mind, nights of laughter, whispered secrets, shared dreams, and wondered if it had all been a lie, or if she too had been trapped a pawn in a game she couldn't escape. But pity for Clara didn't erase the damage. The press grew uglier. My firm officially suspended me pending further review, though I knew it was their polite way of discarding me. My neighbors whispered when I passed, children staring as if I were a scandal come to life. I felt stripped bare, my dignity scattered like ashes in the wind. Brian tried to shield me, but even his power had limits. He showed up at my apartment late one night, his eyes hollow from battles I couldn't see. They're threatening Ethan now, he admitted, his nephew, the only child in his family who hadn't been hardened by greed. This isn't just about us anymore, it's about control. If I don't bend, they'll break everyone around me. I looked at him, the weight of his empire pressing down on his shoulders, and for the first time I saw not the millionaire who had enchanted me at Clara's wedding, but the broken boy beneath the man, the boy who had learned too early that love was weakness and betrayal inevitable. And yet he chose me? Every day, despite the ruin it brought, he chose me. But love alone couldn't silence the war. One evening, as we sat in the dim quiet of his penthouse, a letter was slipped beneath the door. No envelope, no signature, just a single sheet of paper with words that made my blood run cold. Leave him or bury him, your choice. My hands trembled as I showed Brian. He read it silently, then tore it into shreds, his jaw tight, his eyes aflame. "They won't scare me," he muttered. "They've tried before. They've never broken me." But I wasn't him. I was already broken, bleeding from wounds that wouldn't heal. And as much as my heart clung to him, my mind screamed with terror. If they couldn't break him, they would break me. The breaking point came soon after. Clara appeared at my door, her face pale, her eyes hollow. For a moment I thought she had come to apologize, to undo the knife she had driven into my back. Instead, she whispered, "They'll destroy you, Emily. They'll strip you until you're nothing. Leave now before it's too late." Anger surged, but sorrow was stronger. Why, I demanded, why betray me after everything? Her lips trembled. Because I owed them. Because my family owed them. And because if it wasn't you, it would have been me. Her tears fell freely, but they brought no comfort. Her confession was both an apology and a final betrayal. When she left, I knew my choice had already been made for me. That night, I packed my things. I wrote a letter just as I had once before when another love story had ended with me walking away. Brian, you gave me a reason to believe again. But love isn't enough when it's built on blood and secrets. If I stay, they'll bury us both. If I leave, at least one of us survives. I'm sorry. I slipped it beneath his door and walked into the night, the city swallowing me whole. I don't know if he read it before the board stripped him of power, before his family turned their knives inward, before the empire of lies they built began to crumble. I don't know if he still thinks of me, or if he hates me for leaving. But I know this: I loved him, and love, real, raw, dangerous love, taught me the hardest lesson of all. Sometimes survival means choosing betrayal. Sometimes the greatest act of love is walking away. So here I stand, scarred, but still breathing, my dignity stitched together with pain and defiance. I don't know if fate will ever let our paths cross again, but if it does, I hope he understands why I left. And I hope you listening to my story understand too. Because life will test you with wounds that never heal, with secrets that crush, with betrayals that burn. But through it all, the choice remains yours to break or to keep walking. If my story touched you, if it reminded you of battles you've faced or choices you regret, please like this video, share it with someone who needs hope, subscribe for more stories like this, and tell me in the comments what survival means to you.